I said enough. And stopped being generous to my ungrateful family and stopped paying for sister's education, but they came and demanded access to my trust account. I laughed, and I think there's a limit to how much you can give before something inside you finally cracks. For me, that moment came after years of being the responsible one in a family that never learned the value of hard work. I was the one who worked insane hours, hustled like my life depended on it, and managed to pull myself out of the mess they were in. But apparently success came at a price. Everyone expected me to carry them. At first, I didn't mind helping. I knew my parents weren't great with money, but they were my parents. Family, right? And my sister Jessica? She had potential. She'd been talking about being a lawyer since she was 10. So when my parents came to me 2 years ago and asked if I could help her pay for law school, I listened. They painted this whole picture of how she could really make something of herself, how she'd be able to give back to the family someday. I bought it. Okay, I told them. But there are strings attached. I didn't want to throw money down the drain. I worked too hard for every dollar. I laid it out, no partying. No slacking off. If I'm paying her $38,000 a year, she better be serious. Of course, they agreed without hesitation. Everybody's on their best behavior when there's money on the line. Things were good at first. I felt good about helping. I'd done something important, something that could change Jessica's life. But that didn't stop the guilt from creeping in. Monica, my girlfriend, was my partner in every way. We'd been together for years, and we split everything equally. Rent, utilities, groceries, half and half. Monica is not a freeloader. She works just as hard as I do, and yet here I was, spending tens of thousands of dollars on my family when I could barely afford to take her out to dinner. I hadn't bought Monica flowers in years. Not once had I planned a surprise weekend getaway or anything close to it. I kept telling myself, next month. But somehow that month never came. I was too busy playing hero to a family that saw me only as an ATM with a pulse. The breaking point came out of nowhere. My dad's sister, Aunt Rachel, came to town for a visit. She and I have always gotten along. She's sharp, no nonsense, and I trust her. Apparently, she went over to my parents' house and caught them in the middle of a conversation about me. That's where it all unraveled. She told me how they complained about me. How I was controlling, because I set the terms for Jessica's tuition. How I thought I was better than them just because I had money. They even laughed about it. My parents. My sister. The same people I'd sacrifice for, mocking me behind my back. They called me arrogant. Ungrateful. My sister apparently said she hated how I made her feel. Like a beggar. Aunt Rachel didn't say anything to them at the time. She pretended to brush it off, but the next day she came straight to my apartment and told me everything. I'll never forget the look on her face when she told me. It was like she couldn't believe what she had heard. Monica sat next to me on the couch while Rachel spoke. When she finished, the room was silent. I could feel Monica's anger simmering just below the surface. She didn't even wait for Rachel to leave before she told me. You have to cut her off. Right now. They don't deserve another penny from you. I knew she was right. Part of me wanted to block their numbers and be done with it. But another part of me. I wanted revenge. I wanted them to see me face to face and hear what I had to say. I wanted to see the look on their faces when I told them they were cut off forever. Monica kept pushing for no contact. Don't sink to their level, she said. I knew she had a point. Still, I couldn't bring myself to cut them off. I did stop the tuition, though. No warning, no explanation. I just let them figure it out for themselves. At first, nothing happened. A whole month went by without a word from either of them. It was almost peaceful. Then the tuition bill came due. That's when the phone calls started. Jessica called first, then my mom, then my dad. I ignored each of them. The calls went on for days. I'd see my phone light up with their names, but I wouldn't even flinch. Until one night there was a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so when Monica looked out the peephole and whispered, "It's your parents," I felt an adrenaline rush. They really came here? I asked. Yes, she said in a low voice. What do you want to do? I stared at the door for a moment, my mind racing. I had no idea what they were going to say, but I knew one thing: this conversation was going to change everything. I stood there for a moment, debating whether or not to open the door. Monica gave me a look that said, "You don't owe them anything." And she was right. But this wasn't just about cutting them off. I wanted them to know that they couldn't manipulate me anymore. They had used me, trashed me behind my back, and now they were standing outside my apartment like nothing had happened, expecting me to bail them out. I took a deep breath and opened the door. My parents were standing there, looking awkward, as if they hadn't expected me to actually answer. My dad gave me a nervous half-smile. My mom, always the more confrontational one, jumped right in. "Jack, honey, we've been trying to reach you. Are you okay? You haven't returned our calls." "Yeah, I noticed," I said flatly, leaning against the doorframe. Their eyes darted back and forth. They knew something was wrong, but they were still trying to play it cool. My mom continued, her voice becoming more urgent. "Jessica called us. The school says they haven't received payment for this semester. We're worried. Is something wrong?" I crossed my arms. "No, nothing is going on. I just decided not to pay for it anymore." The shock hit them both at the same time. My mom's eyes widened and my dad shuffled uncomfortably on his feet. He wasn't one for confrontation unless absolutely necessary. But this time he spoke up. "Jack, come on. We had an agreement. You can't just pull out without giving us a heads up." "Oh, I can't," I said, my voice cold. "Especially after what Aunt Rachel told me." Their faces dropped as if I'd slapped them. My mom tried to play dumb. "What are you talking about? What did Rachel say?" "Oh, you know, the part where you all sat around and called me a controlling, arrogant jerk who made Jessica feel like a pauper. The part where you laughed about how I wouldn't understand your struggles because I have a trust account." I stared at her hard. "Funny thing is, I worked my ass off for every dollar in that account, but I guess that part doesn't matter, right?" They froze. My mom's mouth opened and closed like she was struggling for words. My father just stared at the floor. Finally, my mom tried to recover. "Jack, you don't understand. We were just blowing off steam. We didn't mean it. We were frustrated. Jessica's been under a lot of pressure, and sometimes people say things they don't mean." "Right," I said, sarcasm dripping from my voice. "You didn't mean it. You just happened to say exactly how you really felt behind my back." I shook my head. "Spare me the excuses. I paid $38,000 last year to help Jessica live her dream. All I asked was that you be honest and grateful. But instead, you treated me like your personal bank and threw me under the bus." My father finally spoke again, his voice more serious this time. "All right. We screwed up, son. We shouldn't have said those things. But cutting Jessica off like this isn't fair. You're ruining her chances." "And for what?" "A few harsh words? You can't just let this destroy our family." That's when the conversation took a turn I wasn't expecting. My mother hesitated for a moment, then said carefully, "Look, Jack. Maybe if you're so upset about the money situation, there's another solution." I narrowed my eyes. "What are you getting at?" She exchanged a look with my father before answering. "We were thinking, since you have the trust fund, maybe it would be easier if you gave us access to it. Just temporarily, to take some of the pressure off. That way Jessica can stay in school and we can stop bothering you with money." The audacity of it hit me like a punch in the gut. They wanted access to my trust account. My entire future security. After everything they'd said about me, they thought I'd give up control of my finances? I started to laugh. Not a normal laugh, a bitter, hollow one. "You want access to my trust fund?" I repeated in disbelief. "Do you really think I'd let you touch a dime after all this?" "Jack, we're just trying to help Dash." "Help you, you mean?" I snapped. "That's what it's always been about. I'm done. You can figure out Jessica's tuition on your own. I'm cutting you off for good. My mother's face twisted in anger. You're being unreasonable. We're your family. You're acting like a cheap, heartless stranger. Yeah? Well, maybe you should have treated me like family instead of a damn ATM. I shot back. They tried to argue, but I didn't give them the chance. I slammed the door in their faces. For a moment, I just stood there, my blood boiling. Monica came over and put a hand on my arm. Are you okay? She asked quietly. I nodded, but I wasn't. I felt betrayed on a level I hadn't thought possible. A few days passed without any contact from them. For once, the silence was welcome. I tried to focus on work, on spending time with Monica, on anything but them. I thought they'd finally gotten the message. But then something happened that neither of us expected. It was late at night when I heard a loud crash from outside. I jumped up and ran to the window. One of the front windows of my apartment was shattered, and shards of glass were scattered all over the floor. What's going on? Monica gasped as she joined me at the window. I looked outside but saw nothing but darkness and an empty street. No sign of who had done this. All I knew was that this wasn't some random accident. It felt personal. And deep down, I had a sickening feeling that this was just the beginning. The shattered window stayed on my mind all night. Monica and I sat on the couch after I cleaned up the glass. Neither of us slept much. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a random act. The next morning, while I was drinking coffee, it hit me. Jessica. She'd been radio silent for weeks until the tuition bill came due. She was desperate, pissed off, and entitled enough to do something stupid like this. Monica, I said, setting the mug down. I think Jessica did it. Her eyes narrowed. You really think your sister broke the window? Who else would? She's mad because I cut her off. I wouldn't put it past her to try and send a message. Monica shook her head in disbelief. Wow. That's a whole new level of low. I need to go talk to my parents, I said, rubbing my temples. Good. Let's sort this out once and for all, Monica said, grabbing her coat. There was a fire in her eyes that I hadn't seen before. We drove over to my parents' house in silence. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I had a knot in my stomach the entire way there. When we arrived, my mom answered the door, surprised to see us. My dad was in the living room, watching TV, and Jessica wasn't there. Good. I didn't want to see her right now. Jack, what's going on? My mom asked, frowning. We need to talk, I said as I stepped inside. About last night. Someone broke our window. What? My mom gasped. Don't play dumb, Monica said sharply, stepping forward. We know it was Jessica. They both froze. My dad slowly stood up from the couch, his face tightening. You really think your sister would do something like that? Yeah, I do, I said. After everything that's happened, it makes perfect sense. My mom started shaking her head. Jack, that's a serious accusation. Jessica's been stressed, but she wouldn't. Oh, cut the crap, Monica snapped. Her voice was cold and sharp enough to cut glass. She's been spoiled her whole life, and you've let her walk all over Jack. You think she wouldn't lash out because she didn't get what she wanted? Monica, calm down, I said quietly, but she wasn't having it. No, I'm not calming down, she shouted, turning to glare at my parents. You people have no idea how much Jack sacrificed for you. He gave up his time, his money, everything. And what did you do in return? You insulted him behind his back and treated him like an ATM. And now, after all that, you want to act like Jessica isn't capable of this? Monica, please. My mom started, but Monica wasn't finished. She stormed into the kitchen, grabbed a plate from the counter, and hurled it to the floor. It shattered into pieces. You started this war, she yelled. If you hadn't treated Jack like garbage, none of this would have happened. My parents stared in stunned silence. My mom was frozen in shock, and my dad just stood there, speechless. I walked over to Monica and gently put my hands on her shoulders. Hey, I whispered. It's okay. Let's handle this the right way. She was shaking with anger, but she finally nodded. I turned back to my parents, my voice cold and steady. Jessica confessed to me. I'm calling the police. The color drained from their faces at the word police. No, Jack, my dad said quickly, holding up his hands. Let's not go that far. We'll take care of it. We'll pay for the window, all right? Just don't do anything drastic. I crossed my arms. You expect me to trust you now? After everything? Monica wasn't done yet. And let me make one thing clear, she said, stepping forward again. If you ever come near Jack again or try to pull any more stunts, I'll make sure every cent of his trust fund is protected from you. In fact, I'll help him invest it in something worthwhile, like anything other than this ungrateful family. They both looked like they'd been hit by a truck. I sighed and shook my head. We're done. I'm done. Monica and I are going home. Don't contact me again. We turned and walked out. Monica was still fuming as we got into the car. I drove silently for a while, the tension slowly easing out of my body. Finally, I glanced at her and chuckled softly. You really went all in back there, huh? She raised an eyebrow. They deserved it. But yeah, maybe I went a little overboard with the plate. We both burst out laughing. It felt good. For the first time in weeks, the weight on my shoulders lifted just a little. 2 days later, my parents wired money to cover the repairs and the new window. No apology, no further contact. It was like they'd finally accepted that I wasn't going to be their cash cow anymore. And honestly, that was worth every dollar I'd spent on Jessica's education. Monica wanted to rally some of her friends to help me recover the money, but I shook my head. It's fine, I told her. I see it as the price I paid to never have to deal with them again. She sighed but eventually smiled. All right. But if they ever try to come back, they're getting nothing from us. Ever. Deal, I said, pulling her close. And just like that, the nightmare was finally over. A few weeks passed without a word from my family. No phone calls, no surprise visits, nothing. It was quiet for the first time in years. Peaceful, almost. I finally began to believe that I was free of them. But of course it didn't last. One day my Aunt Rachel called. Her voice was calm, but had that undertone that told me something was coming. Hey Jack, she said. Can I come over? I need to talk to you about something. When she showed up that night, I knew it was serious. Rachel didn't make small talk. She sat down and got right to the point. Your parents cut me off, she said, crossing her arms as if daring me to be surprised. I blinked. Cut you off? What does that even mean? They don't speak to me anymore. They think I betrayed them because I told you the truth about what they said. I felt a flash of anger. That's ridiculous. You were just being honest. You did the right thing. Yeah, well, in their eyes, honesty is a crime, she replied with a bitter smile. They said I betrayed their trust. Called me disloyal. I shook my head and paced the room. Unbelievable. So now they're punishing you because they don't want to face the consequences of their own behavior? Pretty much, she said. Then she leaned forward and locked eyes with me. But listen to me, Jack. I don't care that you're angry. I did what I did because you deserve to know the truth. I've watched them take advantage of you for years and I couldn't stand by and let it happen anymore. I don't regret it for a second. I sat down across from her and let her words sink in. I wasn't sure what to say. You know what the best part is? She added with a grin. I got to see Monica in action. That woman is fierce. Jack, she's just what you need. I laughed a little. Yeah, she's been amazing through all of this. Honestly, I don't know how I got so lucky. Hang in there, Rachel said. You've got a good one. After Rachel left, I thought about everything she'd said. My parents had really burned every bridge with me and now with Rachel. It was both sad and liberating. Life went on from there. I kept busy with work, and Monica and I continued to move forward together. Things finally felt stable, Until one morning when Monica woke me up, looking nervous but excited. She was holding something behind her back. "I have to tell you something," she said quietly. I sat up and rubbed the sleep out of my eyes. "Okay, what's going on?" She pulled a small object from behind her back and handed it to me. "A pregnancy test. Positive." I just stared at it for a second, not quite processing what I was seeing. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. The words hit me like lightning. I felt my chest tighten, but not with fear. It was shock, disbelief, and pure joy all at once. Slowly, a grin spread across my face. "Are you serious?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, her eyes sparkling. "Yes. We're having a baby, Jack." I pulled her into my arms, laughing. We sat there for what seemed like hours, caught in the moment. The months that followed were a whirlwind. We didn't want a big, fancy wedding. Neither of us cared about the spotlight. So one afternoon we went to the courthouse, just the two of us. No drama. No guests. Just us. It was perfect. But that wasn't the last twist. About a month after the wedding, my father called. It was the first time I'd heard from him since the confrontation. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Jack," he said after a long pause, "I wanted you to know we paid for the repairs. The window. It's done." There was no apology. No attempt to repair the relationship. Just the statement. "Okay," I replied coldly. "Thank you." Another pause. I could hear him breathing, as if he was struggling to find the words. But in the end, he didn't say anything else. He hung up, and that was the last time I heard from either of my parents. Monica wanted to fight harder for me to get Jessica's tuition money back. She even suggested getting friends who knew lawyers to look into options. But I stopped her. "Mon," I said gently, "it's not worth it. That money, that's the price I paid to never have to deal with them again. And honestly, I'm okay with that." She sighed, reluctantly agreeing. "All right. But if they ever come back, They won't," I said firmly. And I was right. They never did. Monica and I built a life together. We didn't need anything from anybody. Our baby was born healthy and perfect, and every time I looked at her, I knew I'd finally broken the cycle. I wasn't the family ATM anymore. I was building something real. And for once, everything was exactly the way it was supposed to be.